Train by day, Kyle Wigginton podcast by night, all day.
You looking big, bro. You know what? Like, you were like, yeah, I mean, you never have like fat on you, but like when we did the 48, you had like, no, I wasn't gonna say chubbier. You had just clearly bulked up. You had clearly focused on bulking, and
Right.
And it's like, this is the biggest I've ever seen you like trimmed.
You're damn right it is. You haven't seen this yet, Jarrod.
Oh,
Boom.
thank
Look
you.
at that.
Thank you for that.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, that's us.
Oh, look at us. Yeah, I love that I'm on camera talking about how buff my friend is.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, I can cut that part out, you know, if you want me to.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
Jarrod Beck.
That's me.
How's life, dude?
It's good. It's good. Busy. Living the dream. Just kind of looking outside and thinking about how cold it is, but the sun's out and it looks nice.
It's pretty crazy.
They
Yeah.
can't see that from here, though, can they?
Well, I mean, no. They can't see
They
that.
can see the beautiful sunlight.
Technically, they
so.
could, though. If I, you know, with this camera, you can turn it all the way around just for your phone.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, you guys, I can't believe you guys don't have one of these yet.
We just bought, and this is totally skipping around, right? Like, hey, I'm Jarrod. We bought a camera at work. We just got one of the new GoPro Hero 12s.
Uh-huh.
And I haven't messed with like a GoPro in like years.
Yeah, long time.
And dude, it's pretty nice. It's the same thing. Like everything's from the phone.
That is nice. Does it do like slow motion and stuff too?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, it was between that and one of these. And I went with this right here just because it's kind of cool. It's got Steadicam and stuff on it.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah. You've got like a built-in like Steadicam. It's different applications.
Yeah. So what were we talking about? Skipping around again?
No. Skipping back, really.
Skipping back, yeah.
Kind of a sort of way. Let's see. What were we talking about?
We've already hit on like a bunch of stuff.
Yeah,
before.
that's what happens.
I told him, I was like, dude, we should be doing this on the podcast.
Yeah.
I mean, we were talking about time and then something else. And
yeah.
we solved several of the world's problems already.
We did.
Yeah.
We did. We didn't talk about lunch. We'll get to that. We'll probably do that off camera, Mike. Well, let me ask you a question. How about that?
Yeah.
How long have you been doing this?
I guess about a year and a half now. I'm on episode 105, maybe.
Oh man.
Yeah, I think this is episode 105. So 105 episodes, 105 hours of my life.
So, close to two a week then?
Something like that. Yeah. Yeah. I was supposed to have a guest on before today too, but he canceled on me.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, he's one of the best comedians in the South.
Oh,
He had a show last night somewhere else,
and he just didn't make it in.
No, it didn't make it in.
I am not one of the best comedians in the South.
Not one of the best comedians, but he's one of the best filmmakers I've ever had the pleasure of working with.
Oh, are we talking about me now?
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Man, look at this guy.
It's impressive what he can do. And it makes sense what he does for a living too.
Yeah. Working at a outdoor advertising company for their video production team.
Well, one of the biggest.
Yes, one of the biggest.
Yeah,
That
I mean,
is
you can say that too.
You know, it's always interesting to me. Like, you know, it's you can say, oh, you know, what company it is. We'll kind of keep that to ourselves, I guess. But
I already said it once, but I can cut it out later.
Did you? There we go. I guess I'll keep it to myself. Well, you know, it's just interesting. It's one of those situations of like circumstance, right? Like, it's not like this huge company like sought me out and like hired me. Like, they just posted a job for a videographer and I applied for it. And they're like, well, you're the best. Like, you're not even like what we're looking for. You're just the best that applied. So we're going to take you. And, you know, I mean,
Is that how you justify it? Because I see it a little differently.
okay.
I see that there's like we were talking about fixed points in time, right? So I think that everything on this planet is happening for a reason.
Okay.
And I think that there's a reason that this company hired the best. And there's a reason that you were looking for a job at that point in time. So that all just kind of lined up correctly.
You know, it's hard to deny how certain things kind of work out. Like skipping around. That's what we do. Is that what you do here?
All the time, yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, no one cares. My mom didn't care. She's the one that listens.
Yeah. Hi, Kyle's mom. I'll meet you one day. Goodness gracious. I forgot what I was going to say.
Oh, talking about things all happening.
Yeah. I do not believe that things just work themselves out. Like I hate when people, that'll work itself out. And some people say that like actually mean it.
Yeah, you have to apply yourself, right?
Yeah. Things will come together in some way, but you have to, make it go the way you want it to go. It takes effort. You have to put in something.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, you have to apply energy into a system to make the system work.
Right. Exactly. Or you're just, a passive bystander. And who wants to do that? I mean, I guess some people do.
I mean, not me. Look at these.
No, you don't get those by being.
You got to apply work.
You look like this as a
whatever, dude. You're freaking buff too.
Yeah. This is a dad bod right here. This is a legit dad bod.
So I mean, yeah, you had to apply yourself for that job.
Yeah.
To get the job.
Yeah.
And then I've seen what you've done with the place since you've been there.
I think that's the fun part.
Yeah.
I think that's the fun part. And for me, what actually kind of attracted me to the position is just kind of the opportunity. I mean, because you can kind of look at it from both ways, right? Like you can absolutely look at it as I just applied for a job and got it, and which is true. And then you can also see what it could be, and what it could turn into. And, and since being hired as a videographer, which I don't know, whatever, being hired as a videographer, that's right. And then hiring 2 other people and having like a small team and building a studio at the place, a small studio. And, turn it into really a small production company at this point. It's gone from, a guy riding around filming, outdoor advertisements to, a small production company.
Yeah. I remember when you first took the job, one time we were hanging out of the window filming the stadium, driving down the interstate.
That's it.
And now you guys are doing like bigger things.
We're just doing that now with a red.
Yeah, they're doing it now with a better camera. Still doing it though.
That's it. Still doing it. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I'll never forget that. I think it was a game day or something.
Yeah, it was Monday Night Football.
Yeah, and me and you were in a car driving around trying to catch the perfect lights.
Crown Royal advertisements is what we were trying to get. Yeah, it was good times. And like I said, we're still doing that. But
I think that's what's cool about that company when they hire very creative people. And when you have creative people that have a vision for the future, that's when you get something like what you've done. Because you very well could have just taken that job and just got a paycheck every week. Yeah. And did exactly what they wanted you to do. But no, you've turned it into something better.
And I think that, that's kind of the cool part about it too, is it would have been real easy. I actually, let me rephrase that. I don't know if I would have done the job if I wouldn't have seen the opportunity to continue to push and grow. And let me be clear. It's not like I surprised the people at the office. And it's like, we can do more with this. Like there's from the top down of the company, CEO down, there is a sense of, hey, push, we can, if you can think of it and it can help the company, we can do it. We have the resources to do it. Obviously there's a few checks in there, right? Like, it's not like, oh, if you want to do it, you can do it. There's, it's got to be able to help the company and help grow the company. Which let's be clear. This is a big company. I don't know how much I'm helping grow it.
I'm pretty sure you are. If you weren't, they wouldn't have you there. But no, you said there's a lot there. We did the same thing with this bar. Like when I got hired at this bar, I was a bartender. And I was like, what? This place has potential. What could I do to make this place grow? And we started all the open mics. Everyone that presented me with an idea, I was like, yeah, let's do it. Let's run with it. And now we have this place right here, which is, expanded.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool place. Like, like I said, I came in here a few years ago and I like the location too.
Yeah, it's a great location.
Is that what drew you here?
No, it's funny. It's a funny story. I don't think I've talked about it on the podcast before, but, I was doing like the circuit bartending stuff for a while. And one of the gigs I had was the Ogden Museum. Mm-hmm. And I'm bartending an event at the Ogden Museum one night. And just like back there doing my thing. And this guy walks up to me and he looks up at me, a little short guy. And he's like, hey, man. And I'm like, hey, what's up? Can I get you something? He's like, nah, but you look like you know how to run. What did he say? You look like you know how to run. No, you look like you know your way around a bar.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And I was like, oh, thanks. And he's like, do you want to come run my bar? And I was like, well, I'll come check it out. So he gives me his number and he walks away. And that was the last time I saw that guy. And the next day I texted him and I was like, yo, man, you want to come meet at the bar? I'll check the place out. We come in here and it's this bar.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this looks cool. He's like, yeah, do you want to run it? And apparently he just cleaned house.
Like you were the first hire.
Yeah. Well, no, he found someone stealing.
Oh yeah.
And he just like cleaned house, all the employees, everything, just let them go.
Sorry.
And I was like, sure, I'll come work at the place. I don't want to run it. You know, I don't want to like spend all my time focused on this place.
Yeah.
So another guy, one of my buddies, I had him come in and he was like managing the place at the time and he didn't last very long. And then I kept, putting it aside. They hired another manager, didn't last very long. They hired another manager, didn't last very long. And finally,
is this like the people not working out?
yeah,
the
people just sucked.
Excuse me. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So he fired one of them. No, he fired two of them. He fired one of the guys because the guy tried to fire me.
Oh,
yeah. And so he canned the guy.
It's like, no, bro, this team was here before you I've been trying to get him to take your job.
Exactly. Yeah. So 3 managers goes by and finally I was like, okay, I'll take the job.
I'll do it.
Yeah. So I took the job and I've been doing it ever since.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I remember you coming to work here and not managing. And then eventually it was like, I'm just going to do it. Did you come straight from Bourbon Street here?
Bourbon Street. And I did the circuit thing I was telling you about for about a year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But the circuit, like there are so many places to bartend in this city.
Mm-hmm. You don't say.
Yeah. And you have the Orpheum Theater, all the theaters and stuff. Like they have all kinds of gigs they do there. So I was just kind of like bouncing around doing gigs as I was acting and stuff in between.
Acting.
And then, yeah.
Which is where we met, guys.
That is where we met. Yeah.
Man, I still think about like those first early projects from like 10 years ago. 10 years ago. Let that sink in for a second.
I mean, it feels like 10 years. And when I say it feels like 10 years, I mean my level of skill has grown to feel
Fair.
like 10 years.
Yeah, I got that.
Yeah. I mean, the time doesn't feel like it's passed anymore. Ever since COVID happened, the time just doesn't seem like it matters anymore.
Also fair.
But I noticed we recently did something. It's like 2-3 weeks ago, and I'm acting in this film that we're doing. And I mean, just on set, I felt at home.
Yeah.
And I felt whenever they said action, I was in control the entire time of everything that I was doing. And as an actor, that's what you want.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like that I've ever felt that comfortable in anything in front of the camera as I do right now. Even whenever we first started, like that was, I think Lumina, was that where we first met?
I think that was yes and no. I feel like we met before that. Was Blood Brothers before that?
Oh, Blood Brothers.
Now, yeah, we did.
Yeah, that was so Blood Brothers was
that was our first thing together.
That was the first thing I ever did.
Yeah, I was going to say I'm pretty sure that was your first thing and I was there. And then Lumina was the first thing.
So let me just tell this real quick.
Okay.
So
he's going to go, guys.
Blood Brothers. Okay. The very first time I was ever on camera as an actor, they put gasoline on a house.
Not me.
Now he was producing, right?
Or AD? First AD.
So
first AD.
So I'm
doing a terrible job if judging by what he's saying right now.
First time ever on camera, they fucking doused this house in diesel or whatever.
Yes.
And then they light it on fire and I'm standing in front of it and they're like, action. I'm like, what?
Okay, that's your perspective.
Yeah.
Which, as this is your first gig, right? Like you're like, is this so that I know in your mind you're like, this can't be how this goes, right? Like, but a part of you's like, well, I don't know. There's everybody here just doing it. So I get to set, or before I get to set, we're riding out in the middle of nowhere, Arkansas, and they're like, yeah, we found this house on this property out in the middle of nowhere that was kind of vacant. And some people have turned it into like a meth flop house and it's nasty and dirty. There's nothing to do with it. And I talked to the guys, so they let us burn it down for this movie. And I'm like, okay, that's pretty cool. Like, okay, that's taking care of your resource or managing some resources, right? We get there and the house is out in the middle of nowhere.
It was.
But it was like really close to the road. And there was a big ditch. There was nowhere to go. Like it's just this house pretty close to the road with nowhere to go. And we get there and the people burning it down. There's no fire department. There's just, listen, let me go ahead and say this. I am from Monroe, Louisiana. Okay. Like I'm a bumpkin. All right. So I'm not disparaging anyone when I say this because I have lived it. There was these two rednecks that were just throwing diesel all in this house. And look, this house wasn't empty. It was just nobody lived it. There's like mattress, everything.
Trash.
Like people have been taking trash there. They're dousing this thing with diesel. And then we're getting cameras set up. Like we're not even set up. We got all our equipment, like by the house working. We're trying to decide whether we can even film in the house. Like all this stuff is happening. And then these dudes walk out and say, yeah, it's going. we're like, what? What do you mean? They say, yeah, we lit it inside. It's gonna go pretty quick. It looks like. And then, I mean, this thing just bursts into flames. Like for real. Like, we had equipment. We were lucky to get all the equipment away from the house.
was like melting and shit, wasn't it?
Yes, that's what I was going to say. Like the ash and stuff falling actually caught some of the equipment bags. Like it didn't catch it on fire. Let's not get dramatic. But it burned holes in it, like where it singed through the plastic. And we couldn't get far enough away. You obviously couldn't because you were acting in the... You were in front of us.
Dude, it was so hot.
That's what I was going to say. Everybody got like a sunburn.
Yeah.
Because we couldn't get away from it. So that's what I mean, we got burned from a fire, but it was like a sunburn because you could get far enough away, but it was so hot.
But imagine that like in a real house fire. Like, that's probably what kills people is that radiating heat.
Oh man. Yeah. Yeah. It cooks you. Exactly. Anyway, that was
my first,
that's his first gig.
That was my first time to hear action. But then they, that was
literally outside of a burning house.
Yeah, that was it. And that's why I was like, I need to do this. This is something I need to pursue because that gave me an adrenaline rush.
How could it not?
I know. I mean, that entire film was pretty fucking cool. Like, thanks to Seth and Jason for hooking me up with that. Because I mean, going to Chicago and filming with Jessica Safati. It was just a fun thing to do.
Yeah.
Good introduction into film. And
it was. And then they hired Brandon from Chicago to come down and film it. He filmed in Arkansas and Chicago. So that was pretty neat. It was a pretty neat project. It really was.
Yeah.
And I thought the final film turned out pretty good too.
You could tell that it was my first film. Like, I wasn't happy with my performance in it. But I mean, at the same time, you got to get started somewhere. And it just happened that I got started in that fucking film.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I would also say too, I like to kind of always like quantify these too, like, or qualify them. It was essentially a student film. You had a couple professionals working on it, but all in all, almost everybody working on that film was still in school. I mean, I was in school. I was in grad school. Jason was in school. Seth was in school. Like, everybody working on it. Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, but today, like, I feel so much more comfortable. Like, if we went and did that again, which we're not going to do that again, but
no, we wouldn't. I would ask more questions. Yeah.
But if we did a project like that again, like, I would feel so much more comfortable because for anyone who's never been there with a camera on your face and, you're going to hold this person, you're going to kiss them whenever they say action, you're in love with this person. It's like, what? Or you're gonna take this gun, you're gonna put it in somebody's face, you're gonna scream at them when we say action. That just, for someone who's never done that before, it's kind of weird.
Yeah,
acting is weird.
It is. So I mean, I started. I've always loved film. Always been interested in film. I'm not say always. Not when I wasn't like 8 years old running around with a Super 8 camera. I don't want to get like too uppity about it. But ever since I kind of like realized like what a movie was, I've been interested. But I started kind of in acting, like in theater acting too. And I decided I want to be behind the camera. Long story short, fast forward. But whenever I was in grad school, I took an acting for the camera class as part of my directing studies. And I had a really great professor. He taught theater, Dr. Brown. And we were doing scenes, just little short scenes with each other. And I forgot exactly what the scene was, but he wanted me to act like anxious, like paranoid. And, we were going through the scenes. I remember my lines and it was fine. And I felt like I was doing a fine performance and there was nothing to indicate that I wasn't doing a fine performance, but he like pulled me aside. He said, I want to try something. He says, look, just go outside, run around the building and then run in, sit in your seat. Cause the whole scene takes place like sitting down. I'm like going over like this paranoia thing with somebody else across from me. He says, just run in, and then sit down and go. Like, we'll wait on you. And it was interesting because like it allowed me to like click into that character. Like, I don't know. I was like, okay, I'm just going to come in and be out of breath. But just that little thing, I think maybe being out of breath might allowed me to like not think about anything else. But anyway, that was in that moment. I felt like I was in the moment, like they say, right? That's probably the only time I've ever truly felt like that. And it was a pretty awesome feeling just to be like, oh, wow. Like, and then the next take we did, I didn't do that. I just went out and did some jumping jacks. He didn't tell me to go run around the building or anything. And it still felt different. It was,
He just wanted you to get that physiological response. Yeah. I've seen that. Like, can you tell have you ever used that same strategy for actors now?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and that was probably the point of the class, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you gotta, that's what's helped me a lot with the entire filmmaking process too, is doing it all. Like, there was a time when I was just acting and I didn't understand that it's a dance between the actor and the camera, and then the director's, leading the dance. Yeah. But then once I actually got behind the camera and saw that side of it, then I understood that, okay, well, if I'm in a scene and the camera's right here, then I don't need to turn this way. I need to turn this way. And it only makes sense when you're doing it and when you see it.
Yeah. Like, and being aware of the camera, like that's kind of an interesting balance too, right? Like, cause I don't want to have to tell an actor, hey man, we're going to be right here. Okay. Like with the camera. So try to look, and it's not because it's like, I shouldn't have to. It's like, no, I don't want them to think about it. I don't want them to have to think about it. I think it's kind of our job as directors and cinematographers to like get you on camera.
Capture the moment.
Yeah. Now that doesn't mean you can't be like, hey, look, I know this is a little, and we've had these conversations before. It's like, hey, I know this is a little awkward to stand right here, but it's going to look better for the camera if you do, and the truth is like I don't know if I've ever truly had an actor be like, oh, that's dumb. At least to me. Now, that doesn't mean they didn't like leave and be like, that dumb redneck. Who gave him a camera?
No, yeah, that's why I said it's a dance, man. It's like the last project that you and I worked on, the 48. It was a point in the scene where I'm standing outside talking to my sister, the other actress. And at one point in the conversation, I turn around and I look backwards. And I don't think that was even in the script. I think I turned because it felt like a good point to turn in the conversation. And we actually added that all into the film. Because like when I turn around, you see the guy up top in the window looking back at us. I mean, it's like a dance, right?
It's an action to cut on.
Yeah.
Well, and by the way, I feel like that's kind of part of the direction, the cinematography. Like that's how you take that off of the actor, right? Is you look for those moments and you try to figure them out. But yeah, no, you're right. Like I didn't tell you like, hey, you need to turn at this point. You did. And then we're like, well, we can use that. Like that's a good spot to cut from.
Gotta make choices.
That's right. Make choices. I mean, that's something else too. I mean, I like to let the actor kind of like, you sit down and you have like a conversation, a candid conversation about the character, what's going on in the scene. You talk about this. I don't just want to like let an actor just like go. Cause I don't think it's fair to them. Right. You want to give them guidance. Obviously you're directing them, but I really like to see what the actor does first, because who knows, the actor might give you something better than you think, or what you're planning, or what you're thinking, what you are requesting. And if they don't, and it's really close, it's a lot easier to tweak a thing or two than to, be like, oh, redo that. This is not what I was looking for.
Yeah. Yeah. Another thing we did was Lumina, which in that one, I played this evil king, right?
That's correct.
Yeah. And one of those, I think I told you, I said, pull me back if I'm going to 10.
I didn't direct him. I was a cinematographer.
Yeah. Well, he was,
which was fun.
But I mean, you kind of were there,
I was there.
Yeah. Like
I was there.
No offense to our director, but Jarrod was directing too.
Hey, let's just be clear. This was like not a bunch of students on a student film or on a film. This was a legitimate student film. This was a class project.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
So I think it's really fair to say we're not, you're not disparaging anyone.
No. Like sometimes those things don't get done. Sometimes they get done. It's what a student film is.
That's why I advocate for film school. And we can talk about that in a minute too. Film school versus not film school. Because you're kind of self-taught behind the camera.
Oh yeah.
But anyway, what were you saying?
Oh no, I was just
Pull you back.
I was saying that I was going to go to 10 and I wanted you to pull me back if not. And then on that film we did a lot of
12s.
action. We did a lot of 12s. There's a lot. Yeah, a lot of 12s.
A lot of 12s.
But it was more of an action thing where we were fighting and doing all kinds of stuff like that. But that was a fun project to do.
It was. I still think about that because for me, what was interesting for me was I was the second cinematographer brought in, right? Like he had shot the film. The cinematographer had dropped out like halfway through the project. Like this is through no fault of the director, right? Like well, that's a whole nother thing too. Be clear, like a student film, like he lost his cinematographer, and the way that they shot it, the camera settings weren't right. And I don't mean like they didn't have the right white balance or their ISO was off. Like it was wrong. If there's a such thing as being wrong.
Well, they're learning, right?
Yeah. When I say the camera settings weren't right, like one scene would look one way or be shot one way and another same way. So when I came in, like, I'm like, y'all shot one day and it's kind of jank. Mm-hmm. Reshoot the whole thing. So that's what we did. And it was a nighttime. A lot of the stuff took place at nighttime, right? You remember that?
Or in a cave.
Right. So that was the challenge. Cause I always like to find a challenge on a project. Like if it's, again, student film, if it's not like a passion project of your own, I always encourage you to try to find something to challenge yourself on, right? Like if you say the material's not great and I'm not saying that was the case here. I'm just saying, the material's not great or you're not super excited about it. Just try to find one thing to kind of like enhance your abilities. And on this project in particular, what I had chosen to do was, hey, let's shoot day for night. Mm-hmm. Like it's got kid actors in it and it's like the springtime. So it's not like you can like shoot from like 5 to 9. So we did day for night. And that was kind of the challenge on that film for me personally, which pretty good results.
Yeah. Some of the shots that I actually saw, they were nice.
Yeah. It worked as in it sold it, though you could tell something was a little whatever, but we're students.
Well, yeah, back then. I mean, now we would do things totally different.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, so we were talking about self-taught versus school.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. What were you saying about that?
I feel like that's a good conversation, especially since both but you cheated though, didn't you?
How did I cheat?
because you did a whole bunch of work with students going through.
Yeah, I learned from you guys.
Going through.
That's not cheating. That's like working the system.
No, that's being smart. That's using your resources. So I am an advocate for film school. Like mm-hmm. I do. And I'll tell you why. Now, when I say I'm an advocate, I'm not saying that doesn't mean it's for everyone. Like, I mean, if you've got the means to go out and make films and learn on your own and fail on your own, go for it. But that's one of the things I like about film school is like it kind of creates this environment where you get an opportunity to use equipment that you're really like 5 to 10 years away from using in the real world, truthfully. Mm-hmm. You get to use that, you get to learn on that, and you get to fail. And because you're not getting paid for a class project, and it doesn't matter what anybody thinks, your class project is not going to be an Oscar winner picture. It's just not. Okay. And that's okay. And the quicker you realize that, the better. And then you get the networking opportunities. So, I mean, of course it's college. It costs money, right? Like that. And that's kind of the big deal too, going to college or not going to college, just in general. But I feel like it expedites the learning process. I think that's a big deal because you're forced to, dude. When I went to grad school, grad school, I like went with the mindset. It's like, I am here to grind. And you remember this because you were there with me on a lot of this, like every weekend. Like,
yeah, you were on all kinds of projects.
Everything. Like I got on everything I could be on. If I didn't have something I was personally doing, I was working on somebody and I loved it. Like I loved it. I hadn't been on that many projects before. And I haven't been on that many projects since. And that's okay. I was aware of that. But that's kind of my point. Like I worked on so many different projects in film school that you just don't get to do outside of film school. Yeah. My job was film school.
Yeah, and I think you did well. Because, I mean, clearly what you're doing now worked. And I've seen your final project from that time.
You were in it.
Yeah, and bro, it was fascinating. Like, that's one of the best projects I've ever seen come out of a student setting.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, that's why I give you high praises now.
Well, thank you. I'm still proud of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can look at it and you can.
It's called Perfect Machine. Is it on YouTube?
It's out there somewhere. You know what? I think it's time to like. I think it's. I don't know if it's public or not. Maybe I should just make it public.
Why not?
I don't. Well, I don't know.
Do you plan on making it a feature?
Man.
I mean, is that why you haven't like put it out there yet?
Well,
it's a really good film.
I mean, yeah, I've thought about it. You know, yeah, I've thought about making it a feature, or making a film based on that world that I built. And by the way, like it's almost that film in some ways. And by the way, I though I am proud of it. I am proud of it. It is not the greatest thing in the world. I just want to be clear here. I'm not singing its praises, but like I said, I am proud of it. But the amount of work and time that went into making that film, like it's hard to go back, right? Like it's hard to be like, yeah, I'm just gonna bang out a film this weekend.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
No,
Like,
you have to make something that is equally that good or better.
Well, it goes back to what I was saying a minute ago. I look for challenges.
Yeah.
And if I'm not challenging, now don't get me wrong. Sometimes it's fun to be like, the 48 was actually a really good example.
Yeah, it turned out nice.
It's clean. It's clean. It doesn't look like a 48 film.
Well, a lot of it has to do with the people that we're working with now too.
Yes.
When we go on set, everyone knows their role.
Dude, those were professionals.
Yeah. I mean, we've all been doing it long enough now where when you go on set, you know what you're doing.
That's right.
And that's the stuff I like to work on. It's hard for me to go to student films. I still work on student films.
Yeah.
And that's tough to go to those now and deal with that.
Yeah. It's just expectations.
Yeah.
But, you know, kind of back to Perfect Machine a little bit. All right. So that was my grad thesis film, right? The first little kernel of that idea, like I had in undergrad.
Mm-hmm.
And then I took there was a 3-year gap between undergrad and graduate school. Okay. In that interim.
Where did you have that idea, first of all? Like, where did that come from?
It's initially it was a little bit of a mix of The Giver was kind of. Do you remember that book, The Giver? They made a movie out of it, like after I had that idea.
Mm-hmm.
But I read The Giver when I was a kid. It's just to summarize again. I was a kid, so I can't remember. But the thing that stuck out to me is it was a very visual film. Everybody saw like black and white, if I remember correctly. At least that's what I remember from a kid to an adult. And so that kind of stuck with me. So it originally, like, when you awaken, you would see colors. Okay. That was just like a kernel I took from The Giver. And then, so like, it kind of started as like that, like they're suppressing people's like awakening, I guess, like just kind of knowledge of what's going on in the world. It's very vague. Again, this is from like a long time ago. I was undergrad, and so there was like they would give them pills to suppress it.
Yeah,
and that's kind of where it came from. And so that little thing, like literally, that was it. It was like a 2-page script, just like I'm not taking my pills. You know, something's wrong. Well, are you taking your pills? No. And it's like, I'm seeing colors. It's like, oh, you shouldn't see colors. Like literally, that was like lines. Oh, you shouldn't see colors. It was like Brian from the Family Guys. Like, what is it? What did he say? You're not patriotic. You don't see the colors of the American flag. I don't know. I forgot it. So I digress. It's funny. So undergrad, and then in the interim, in between undergrad and graduate school, I actually shot like a short film based on that, which is a little bit more. And then I got to grad school, and for a class project, I was like, you know what? I'm going to like rewrite this script for like my class project, and like beefed it up. And my professor, he's like, you know, you really should like workshop and do this for your thesis film. And I'm like, nah. It's like, nah, I really want to do this other idea. that took place in New Orleans, by the way. And I went to, grad school was in Arkansas, which is where Kyle and I met, at University of Central Arkansas. And I was like, no, I got this other idea that I really liked. I still like the idea. I need to dig that script up maybe. And for like months, I just like struggled to like make this other script like work for like a short film. And like I'm going through it, and he's my thesis chair, and he's like, hey man, if you're not going to shoot that script, you mind if I shoot it? and I'm like, no, that'd be awesome. And by the way, I'm like, I hate to say this, like I haven't talked to him. It's been a couple years since I've talked to him, but like we were really close. He was a great mentor, great professor, Bruce Hutchins. And then like a few months went by, and he's so encouraging. He was great. He did a great job of giving negative feedback in a very positive manner. You would leave like he had just taken a shit all over all that you had done, but you felt great about it. Like, you're like, yeah, thanks, buddy. Thanks, Bruce. And you're just like, wait a minute. He hated all that. But it was great. He was super great. So a few months go by, and like this script is not working. He's really trying to help me get this other script to work. And finally I go to his office. Again, this is my thesis chair. We are into my thesis year. It's kind of a big deal to be like, hey man, I don't want to do this movie anymore. So I go in his office, and I'm like, hey Bruce. And he goes, hey Jarrod, what's up? I'm like, hey man, is it okay if I have my old script back and go shoot that? He goes, yes, thank you. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then that was Perfect Machine. And then from there, like the script writing process was pretty smooth from there. Like,
how long did you go from that point to shooting? How long was that?
Well, another fun thing. God, was that? It's probably semester. Which is,
it's like 3 months.
Yeah, not even a semester. Yeah, about 3 months. And then we even shot, and man, like it felt rushed. The film's supposed to take place in the springtime because there is going back to that kind of awakening feeling. I kind of wanted it to have a spring vibe to it. None of that really worked out. We were shooting in the winter, and I just was like, I remember, were you there when I called in the crew? Probably not, right?
I wasn't there when you called in the crew, but I did know that we had to reshoot some things. Right?
Yeah, the whole thing.
Yeah.
We didn't shoot the whole movie. We shot about a third of it. And it just wasn't what it was supposed to be. Right. And if I felt like I could have taken that and continued on and made it like an okay film, it was fine. But I was like, man, I've put all this energy, all this time. And then I also thought about people working on it too. Like it was kind of a bit of a dichotomy, right? Like I'm like, I need to make sure that I'm giving my crew the best opportunity to make the best film that they're part of because they're committed to it. But then you also have to go back to them and be like, hey, look, all the work we've done so far, we're scrapping it.
How did they feel about it?
Well, all right. So, like my main 3 people on that film, Eric White, Rachel McGee, and Robin Sparks. Okay. Robin was my AD. Rachel was my producer, and Eric White was my cinematographer. And I leaned on these people all through film school, right? Like we were a crew. Like we worked on a lot of stuff together. Like we all worked on a lot of stuff together. And so like I really trusted them. And I remember calling them in and just like sitting them down, and they all just kind of look at me. They all kind of took a deep breath, and they're like, okay, like if that's what you want to do, let's do it. You're not wrong. That was kind of basically like it's like, you're not wrong. Because they wanted it to be good. So whenever they may have all left, went to the bar and cussed my name afterwards, but they never acted like it's less. And I mean, they were great, but that's part of it. They were supportive. So I think that gave me the confidence to kind of go forth.
Yeah.
And then at that point, either I or Rachel, I cannot remember. Rachel was just like my right arm and left, just both arms and a lot of that stuff. And either one of us sent out an email to the crew. It's like, hey, look, this is what's happening. Thank you all for your work. It's not because of anything y'all did. I understand this is a big commitment. You've all committed this much. If you need to back out, man, no hard feelings. Like no hard feelings. But if each of you want to stay, I want you to come back. And I think like most of the crew stayed on. I mean, some people, like the people that backed out, none of them were like, screw you, guy. They were like, we're graduating, we're moving. Like, sorry. Nobody was just like, sorry, dude, not going to do it now.
So the amount of production value you had in that, did you guys up that the second time around? Okay.
Yes. Yeah. That was actually a big part of it.
Okay. Because I knew the amount of production value was in that. And I mean, like logos everywhere, like all kind of stuff. It looked really nice. It actually looked like the world was the world you were trying to create. Yeah. What else did you change the second time around that made the final product what it is, which is amazing, by the way?
Thank you.
He'll post it. He'll make it live.
I'll make it live. Yes.
We'll put a link to it in the description below.
I think we changed some locations. Quite frankly, I mean, like that was kind of it. Like all that stuff was feeling kind of rushed. The locations were kind of coming together, kind of slow.
Some of the locations we went to were really nice. Like that cabin we went to. It was like,
yeah. That was actually something. That was one of the ones we like upgraded.
Yeah, that was nice.
And we even had like a pretty decent location for that to begin with. I mean, that was really it. It's like, and I don't want to make it sound like I was like some sort of a tyrant, like I didn't get what I wanted, so I started over. I had to add a semester to school. I had to pay extra for that. I had to pay extra for the movie. Like this, it was a sacrifice to do it. I did not make this decision lightly. So everything had to be better, right? Like in order to make that decision, like that was one you go sit down, you talk to your family about, right? It's like, hey, look, what do you think? This is, the conversations are different too, right? Like when you're sitting down, you're telling your family, I mean, I paid for my school, but like, or still paying for my school. so you go talk to them. It's like, look, I'm going back to school, and they were of course supportive. They're like, well, you need to do what you need to do. And I was like, because that's one of the reasons you go to film school is for that thesis film, grad school in particular. Yeah. Like you want to have that calling card. Anyway, I'm sorry. I got off topic with all of that, but anyway, so two different conversations, but everything had to be better. Locations were improved. The costumes were way better. We of course had lots of like logos and stuff. We built the world.
Yeah.
Right. And part of that was getting locations that already looked really close, but we could just put a logo here, put a sign here, and then that would be it. That would sell it. So that was the production value is really like the main thing that improved. We lost our lead actor, placed him with Christoph, who is awesome. And I feel bad. I am blanking on the original actor's name. He was really good. It was really nice
that he left at such a good project.
Yeah. And he was one of the ones we lost just due to commitment issues.
Right.
I mean, he kind of was like a on the side actor. Most people are, right? But like he had like a pretty demanding career kind of going. I believe he was in politics, not a politician. I want to say like a campaign manager or something like that.
I would say most politicians are actors too.
That's right. Yeah. Like I said, I'm sorry I don't remember his name. He was a super nice guy. I could probably sit here and think of it, but and he was great. That was a tough conversation too, but I understood it. But I think he was the only person I had to recast. Yeah, and thinking back on pushing it back, I do not regret that at all. That was probably the best decision for the film.
Yeah, I didn't see the beginning footage or anything, but I've seen the end product, and I think you guys did a great job. Another cool thing about that project, and I thought it was cool, was whenever I was learning how to be a filmmaker, I stumbled across this guy on YouTube, and I watched a lot of his videos, and he was the Frugal Filmmaker.
Yeah.
And I didn't have a clue who the guy was because I didn't ever look at his face. I was just looking at the stuff he was making. And then we got on set one day and I realized that Scott was actually the Frugal Filmmaker. He was the guy that was making props and things for the film.
Yes. And we're, of course, like we were in grad school together, Scott Eggleston and I call him Scooter affectionately. He and I are good friends. We met first day of grad school. We were same class at grad school. I shot his thesis film. I was cinematographer on his thesis film, Collection Day. Another good project. Were you on that one too?
No, that was Rachel, right?
Yeah.
Rachel was, yeah, I would have known that.
And that was another good project, an action film. Maybe we should drop him a link to that one too.
But anyway, we'll throw it in there. But no, his YouTube page taught me a lot.
Yes, it's kind of funny because like he said that's when he would feel like famous. Not that he is looking for fame. He is the most humble. And he's brilliant too. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, he's really smart and just knows all kinds of stuff. But anyway, like that's what he says. He said, that's when I'll know I made it. It's when somebody recognizes me on the street. And I don't know if he's had that satisfaction, but I have met several people that know who he is. You know,
from Frugal Filmmaker?
Yes, from Frugal Filmmaker.
Yeah, that's how I knew. Yeah. I didn't recognize him until like, I think someone told me, but I was like, holy shit, like I've learned so much from this guy.
Yeah.
And now here he is. Like here he is because he's a giant.
6'7". He's a giant man. Not giant. He's tall. I think it's a shameless plug. I flew to Alaska during COVID with Eric White, and we together produced an ultra low budget, micro budget feature film in Alaska. So
that's a step in the right
Bad
direction.
Bones.
Yeah, Bad Bones. Check it out. Is it on streaming platform?
Yes. I'm not sure exactly which ones it's on, but it's out there. It's searchable and it should be free. It's probably on YouTube actually, but it's on streaming platforms. I'd have to go and look and see which one's currently, but
I'm glad that he's doing that because I know that when they moved to Alaska, he still wanted to do the films and stuff, but it's kind of like a hard area up there to do things like this.
Yeah, and we went and shot it during summer. Okay. And so I was there. I had to come home a couple days early. My family actually had COVID, like got COVID while I was there. So I like flew back and this is back early in COVID when like you didn't know, we didn't know what was going on with it. So it's like somebody gets COVID, you're like, so I flew back a couple days earlier and Eric was my gaffer on that. And he took it from there. Like, I mean, he was my DP on my thesis film. He's an accomplished filmmaker, but obviously he's great. But anyway, so he shot like the last 2 days. But I say that to say I was there for 8 days, never saw darkness at all. Like not once. Like it got dark a little, but it was like really early in the morning, not late at night, really early. So we would go to bed, 11 o'clock at night after we finished shooting for the day. And then we'd be back up early the next morning. And so the sun would still be up when we go to bed and it would be back up before. So I didn't see, it was bizarre.
Did that mess with your circadian rhythm?
I'm going to say no.
Like, did you ever feel tired?
The whole time because we shot a feature film in 10 days.
Right.
Well, that's what I was going to say though. I don't know if it messed up my rhythm. I think it did a little bit. It had to have. But we got there and we went to work almost immediately. And that's a long flight from, South Louisiana to Alaska.
Right.
So I was tired when I got there.
It's like 20 hours.
It took me a full day to get there. I don't remember how many hours of flying it is though. I don't think it wasn't that much. It was a long time though. And so I was tired when we started. And then you work all day. Because the days were long because we're trying to shoot a feature film in less than 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And so I was so tired when it was bedtime. I just fell asleep. I think.
Yeah, it's a lot of shooting for 2 weeks.
It was a lot. It's feature film, 75, 80 minutes, I think. Yeah, and that was a fun one too. Yeah, so that's, by the way, going back to film school. That's a connection I made in film school. Yeah. Like, had I not met Scott Eggleston at UCA Film School, I would have never flown to Alaska to shoot a feature film.
That's true. That's why I tell one of the comedians that comes on the podcast often, Chance McAdam. We were talking a while back, and we started doing some short films together with comedians. And he was talking about going to film school, and I was like, dude, one of the best things you can make in film school is connections. That's what I saw from you guys. I never went to film school, but I see that you guys are all still connected.
But you made the connections yourself too, though.
Well, no, I go about things a little differently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't say.
I skirt systems.
You don't say. Kyle does things his own way.
I do things a little differently.
Which is why I love Kyle. Like, I'm sorry. I think that's one of the reasons, just kind of just on a personal note, I think that's one reason you and I are like such good friends. And I haven't seen him. It's a couple months. It's been a few months since I've seen each other, which happens. Sometimes we'll go through spurts. We'll see each other regularly over a couple weeks. And sometimes we go a few months. And we always just pick back up. I think and I wish that more people would be like this. Like, I think we have a ton in common. We really do. But I think that our differences are what we enjoy about each other the most.
Yeah, they're complementary to each other.
Yeah. Like, I love to hear your crazy thoughts on things. And they're fun because they're always rooted in some sort of crazy logic. Meanwhile, I'm a father of two.
Mm-hmm.
It's all got to be logical.
Yes.
It's all. Anyway, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, yeah, it's funny when I'm around people like you because my best friend from Arkansas too, he's the same way. He's got 3 kids.
Yeah.
So I really have to censor myself when I'm around certain people.
Yeah.
Just when they're around their kids, not when I'm around them.
Sure.
Like I talk about weird shit all the time. Like I think what I was telling you right when we started the podcast about my mead.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't said it on here yet, but yeah, I'm doing some weird experiments right now with some mead.
He is.
And these are things that like you don't do when you have kids.
No.
Yeah, that's why I like to live in a flexible, lifestyle.
He is flexible.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean,
you don't get all those muscles without being flexible.
Yeah, those aren't flexible. Trust me, they go up and down. That's what they do.
that's the way the weight moves, right?
That's the way the weight moves, baby. Yeah, man. Yeah, what do we got?
Connections. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Sorry.
What were we talking about?
You're talking about your connections, making connections in film school.
Oh yeah, no, I was telling Chance that's one of the things he gets out of it because the people that we hang out with right now, he hangs out with comedians.
That's right.
And I love the comedians to death, but they're comedians.
Yeah,
they don't have a lot of like filmmaking drive. So if that's what he wants to do, I was like, then you're gonna have to find people.
Medium.
Yeah, you're gonna have to find people that can actually help you do this. So he's using those as the writer's room. So his comedian friends are the writers and actors. And then he went back to film school here at UNO. Oh, okay. And yeah, we've been using their equipment. Mater. Yeah.
One of them.
They're still cranking out some good stuff too. I've been on a couple of his projects. We actually rented out the bar a couple weeks ago and filmed his, I guess it's not his thesis. He wants to do, he's basically what he's doing is he's taking the open mic night that we have for comedy. Mm-hmm. And he wrote a film around it, short film, 5 minutes long.
Pro tip for filmmakers, young filmmakers with not a ton of resources. You hear it all the time, write what you know, shoot what you know. But anyway, sorry, go ahead.
And shoot locations that you have access to.
Not everybody can shoot a whole bunch of comedians. So to him, it feels like just something he's just right there. But to the average person, they don't have access to that. Anyway, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and it's going to make it look really cool too because the average person can be like, what? You use all these comedians at a bar in New Orleans?
Yeah. How'd you do that?
Yeah. You shut down an open mic night in a bar for this?
Yeah.
So yeah, he's shooting a 5-minute film based on that. And he's going to take it and he's going to scale up if the project turns out well. And he's going to shoot that for his thesis too and make it like a bigger project.
Smart.
Yeah. So, I mean, the guy, he's got a good head on his shoulders. This is one to watch out for right there. Chance McAdam.
Yeah. Well, and going back again to film school, I love how this is part of the conversation. Again, I advocate for it. I read a book, I read a lot of books about filmmaking going through school. One of them, there's an author named Rick Schmidt, and his whole thing. One of the books I read was making feature films on used car prices. And the whole idea was making a feature film for $7,000. And by the way, when he wrote these books, it was before the full digital age. Okay. So you were, a lot of this was shooting on film cameras and you didn't have the access to the level of VFX and stuff like that. So a $7,000
most of your budget right there.
That's right.
Film, yeah.
Right. But anyway, one of the things he was talking about, and again, goes back to resources. He says, people don't realize a college campus has everything. Mm-hmm. So if you're open to it and aware of it, and I think that's also something too, it's just kind of having the skill to be able to see that something could be something else. But everything you need is on a college campus, and that has stuck with me. And, through undergrad and grad school, that has been true. That has rung true. I always started on campus because when you're making student films, half the people live on campus. They're spending their lives on campus. It's easy to get people to where you need them to go when they're already there. And I found it fascinating. Younger film students couldn't wait to get off campus because all their quick class projects, they had to shoot them on campus because it's you go shoot it during your whatever so you can have it. And they couldn't wait to get off campus. I'm like, what are you talking about? Everything you need is, it's yeah, we want to go shoot at in a church. It's there's 3 of them on campus. For real. Pick one.
Yeah.
But no, we want to go off campus. Why? And then it's because we want a cathedral. It's dude, this campus is 100 years old. that cathedral over there is older looking and more authentic than pretty much anywhere you're going to go now. But anyway, I digress again. Stay on campus, kids.
Yeah, I mean, we shot, the most recent thing we shot was actually in an elevator on UNO campus. And the elevator was a freight elevator. So halfway through shooting, it actually stopped. It started messing up. The door wouldn't open. And we're all in the elevator shooting.
What was this for? What was this on?
It's a comedy skit. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a comedy skit. So we're in the elevator. The elevators won't open the door. So we're all just like stuck, like 5 or 6 of us in there with a camera. And we finally started like pressing buttons and doing everything. And it finally opened back up. And we're only halfway through the shoot. We're like, we got to keep going.
That's it.
Yeah, we can't cancel this.
Quitters,
man. So we risked dying that day.
That's right.
Jarrod Beck, you have anything else for us today?
Oh man, what did we even talk about? Like, I don't know. Where they go.
My stomach's starting to get empty though.
I am hungry.
Where are we gonna eat at?
I don't know yet.
We'll figure it out.
We are gonna figure it out.
Is there anywhere that people can find you out there?
You know there's not. You know that I'm not on social media. I don't even know why he asked that. He asked it. He's like, I'm just wasting my time.
We're gonna put a link to the to Perfect Machine in the bio though.
Should I get on social media?
You have a social media.
I do.
Yeah.
I do. What do I do?
Look,
do I do Instagram? What do I do? What do I do, people?
You have a YouTube, right?
I do.
Yeah. So we'll put a link to the YouTube in the bio, and if you want to follow him on YouTube, hit him up.
Oh yeah, there we go. Kyle, it was fun, man.
Jarrod Beck, baby.
Have to come back one day.
Absolutely, anytime, dude. Just let me know.
Yeah. Right on.